Holiday Adventures, everybody. I'm Melissa Banczak, and welcome to episode 72 of Books Cubed, the show where I chat with authors you should be reading. It is Thursday, August 6th, 2020, and I want to say thanks for the nice comments from the bookbinding show with Lisa Van Pelt a couple of weeks ago. I had several people request another show from her studio so they can see what she does. So I'll chat with her about that. And assuming that the COVID is ever gotten under control, maybe that can happen, because I'd like to be there and not just have her take video. So today, normally I interview people. Today, my friend Terri is on interviewing me, and she's asking me questions that I often get from readers about my series and me, and also some things that she was interested in asking. And this was fun to do. It was fun, but boy, do I have mad respect for everyone who has come on the show and been able to answer my questions and make sense and not get off on a long tangent and end up going, what was the question? Because that happened to me more than once. So we'll get right to it, and I'll see you after. This week, I am chatting with Terri M. Colica, who is a young adult author, and I have been after her forever to finish up this wonderful cozy series that she has started, and I'm going to bug her again about it because what I've read so far, I love, and I can't wait to read more of it. Anyway, she has turned the tables on me this time, and she's going to interview me. So we'll see if it's anything interesting. I'll let her go ahead and start.
All right. Yeah. Now I really get to pester you, right? Torment you. Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to start off by saying you are the most creative, inspiring friend that I know. I usually can't keep up with you. You know, your mind just goes like this all the time, and I love it. I love it.
Oh,
So
thanks.
keep pushing me on things, but yeah, and I love your series, your June Nash series. So I think we're going to be talking a lot about that. But is that, is writing books your first endeavor at writing, or have you written other things before you started writing books?
No, I started, before I go, I've got us on split screen. Should we stay on split screen, or should I change
Whatever
it?
is best for you.
Okay, I'm like, do I
Because I want to see you, so.
So the camera will be on us all the time. I got to remember.
Okay.
Don't stand up if you're not wearing pants. Okay. Let's see.
How did you know?
I laugh because Terri and I sometimes write in an afternoon Zoom group, and were you on the day that one of the girls, her husband walked through with just underpants?
No, darn it. I missed that.
It was pretty funny. I think he was wearing boxers, but still, it was pretty funny. Okay, so let's see. I got my start. I always wanted to write. I remember being 4, and Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet was in theaters. It's 1968 or 69, probably 68. I think I was 4. And my mom took me to see it, and we lived in the Boston area, and somewhere in Lowell, we went to a theater, and we sat in the balcony, and I loved the balcony for the longest time. And we sat in the front row, and I just stood up, and I leaned on the balcony and stared at the screen, and I knew this is what I wanted to be involved with somehow, whether it was on the screen or whether it was creating what you saw. But I was 4, so I didn't quite understand what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be a part of it. And so I always would tell myself, and I still do kind of to this day, is I tell myself bedtime stories, always great adventures. And I grew up in the days before VCRs, and, in my day, youngsters, we had 3 TV channels with UHF gave you a 4th. And there was a couple channels, and it was 2 dials. One on the top was, your 3 channels with lots of channels with fuzz in between. And then the bottom was the UHF, and you had to change it to UHF setting. And then you would change the UHF dial and try to get something to tune in. And there was always 2 or 3 weird things that wouldn't tune in very well. So because I couldn't record anything, I would take, well, visually. So I would take a tape recorder and I would record my favorite shows. And I would listen to them again and again and again. So dialogue is the thing that I listen to all the time. And in my mind, I saw everything that would have happened on the screen, but I love dialogue. So I got my start writing screenplays just because of my, growing up. And I talked to a lot of other screenwriters my age who did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
They would record with their, we had these big clunky tape recorders and you had to press record and play at the same time to get it to record.
Uh-huh.
And yeah. And so I would listen to those over and over and over. And so, like I said, screenplays are what I started with. I was a literary agent for, I don't know, to think, I think a 93 to 2000. I think I started as a reader and I would read screenplays and then write a review, a basic synopsis and a little review of them and send them to my boss. And then he brought me on as an editor. And so all the screenplays, I had a good eye for, if this had happened, it would have been better. And, if you could do this, it would flow better. Excuse me. So he brought me on to go through it and edit and work with the writers to make the screenplays better. And then he kind of threw me into the deep end of being an agent, which I hated. I had no problem making contacts, but it was really hard to make that final sale for screenplays. We optioned a buttload of stuff, but production companies will option stuff all the time and then never make the films. Or they'll go out of business after they've optioned, It's like, oh man, then you got to find somebody else again. Though the most fun I ever had was cold calling production companies when I had first started. And I happened to catch Kevin Smith, who did Clerks, at his office.
Really?
Yeah, he was doing Chasing Amy, the film Chasing Amy. He was in the middle of filming it. And we probably talked for 20 minutes and he was so nice. And he was just blah, 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 continuously. He was so excited about the movie and telling me all about it. And by the time we got off the phone, I'm like, why did I call him? And did I introduce myself? I'm not sure I got a word in edgewise. But it was that was the most fun I had, was chatting with him that day. So I've watched his career. It's been really fun to see what he's done. I love that he makes such fun of himself that they always joke about Clerks 12 and Clerks 15 because he keeps making the sequels, of his films. Anyway, if you're a Kevin Smith fan. So anyway, let's see. Did I answer your question? Yeah, so screenplays. I started with screenplays. And then I made a few. I worked as a camera operator for indie films. And I did a few. I did some PSAs and I did a lot of behind the scenes for films. Where I would follow the camera crew around and the actors and the director and then put together, the behind the scenes featurette for their DVDs, and did some music videos and did some short films. Let's see, one of my short films won an acting award, so that's really cool. And then I did a feature film, and then I stopped with film. I just had a bad experience with something, and I realized that I just wasn't going to ever make any money in the medium.
Yeah, I know. We sort of talked about this, and not to give anything away, but I know that you had this yearning to write a book that's fantasy, and it's been percolating for about 20 years. So, but June Nash, how did she come about?
June June's fun. June, I love June. Okay, so my husband had this group of friends that would go out snake hunting, and they would get in cars and they would drive in the back roads and they would go really slow and they would stop suddenly and yell snake, and they'd all leap out of the car and go running to the front and look at a stick that was on the ground. I'd be in the car thinking, it's a stick. But no, they were sure it was a snake. Sometimes it was a snake, but I don't know. The night I was with them, it was a lot of sticks. So, and then, sometimes it was back roads. And so they'd be going like 10 miles an hour and then slamming the brakes on. And I'd be in the back seat. It would make me massively carsick. Even in the front seat, it would make me massively carsick. So there was that. And then I'd been doing a lot of documentaries. And so Mark had a couple friends named Brandon and Patrick who would be out snake hunting, And so I followed them for a while because I thought I was going to make a documentary called How to Sex Your Snake, because they've been sexing rattlesnakes one day, and you put them in this tube, and there's these things that you do, and I didn't even want to think about it because it makes me nauseous to this day still. And I had to watch a bunch of videos on how to do this because I wondered when I wrote about it in my book. And I finally got over it, but it's been a while. So I was working on making a documentary, and I interviewed a bunch of people, and the documentary never really came together. I didn't really have a focus to it, and I was getting car sick. So it's like, I am just too car sick to do this. So I kind of abandoned that. And then I did a short film. So How to Sex Your Snake is in 3 versions. There's the documentary that I started making, I never finished. And then we got another pilot request. So I made a pilot called How to Sex Your Snake, about a guy who worked for an online newspaper. And he wrote the pet column of how to date when you have pets. And he met this girl that he liked who had a snake. And so it was the characters that all worked at this newspaper. And she was a veterinarian. That was it. She was the veterinarian, I think. And he was the newspaper guy. And so it's a so-so. I mean, the actors were fantastic, but I didn't quite, I know what you need to do to write a pilot. And I didn't quite hit all the spots for it to work. So it didn't get bought either. And that's somewhere, I think that might be on my website. I'll take a look. And I'll put in the show links if it's there. So then I'm like, oh, I love the title, How to Sex Your Snake. I just love that, and I want to do something with that one day. So my daughter we had a rescue. It was one of those giant boa constrictors. She was about 9-10 feet long, and she was like really thick around the waist, really thick. And my daughter would put her in the shower, and we had one of those showers that it has a handle that you turn the handle to turn it on. So, we would put the snake in the shower, and then she would climb out when she was done. And the way she climbed out was she would turn the water off as she climbed out, because she would climb up over the fixtures, climb across, and go across the light fixture, and she would lay on the light fixture. So it was 10, 11 foot snake, or 9, 10, or whatever, big snake. And so one day the door was closed, and I was taking towels in, and I opened the door and I stepped in, and there's the snake face hanging there midair. And she's like, her tongue is going in and out, just about touching my nose. And we're like nose to nose. And I'm thinking, because if she bites you, her jaws, for a snake that big, it's not going to kill me, but it's going to hurt like heck. Because both my daughter and my husband were bitten by her. So, there I am, nose to nose with this snake, thinking I'm going to die. So I just I reached behind me for the doorknob and guided myself just very easily back, and got out of that room and closed the door and told my daughter to put the snake away. So that happened. And then I was thinking about just what to do, and knowing that I really loved that title, and thought, oh, and then my husband went overseas. He was in the military, and he was assigned NATO to work with NATO. So he was stationed with Izmir, Turkey. And so this is 2019.
And left you to take care of the snakes?
Yeah, so for 1 year, I had to take care of the snakes. And we had, between adults and babies, because he would breed snakes and we would take them to snake shows, there was a little over 100 snakes. And I know in the book I wrote there were 20, but afterwards I thought, oh, that's not right. And I had to go back and look. No, there was, with adults and babies, there was over 100. So it would take me all day on a Saturday, and there were charts that you had to write down what you fed the snake and all that. And it would take, like I said, every 2 weeks you fed them, but the babies, it was every week, and you had to hold the babies and get them acclimated to being held. And so I would hold them and let them bite the skin between my finger and my thumb, and just hold them and talk to them and get them used to being held. And so I did that for a year, and thought, when my husband comes home, I'm going to kill him and bury him in the backyard, cut him into a lot of little pieces, along with all the snakes. Yeah. So by the end, I just hated all the snakes, and then one day I just sat down and thought, I'm going to write a screenplay about it, because it would be fun to have where's this woman, and her husband is a snake expert, and she has to drive a little snake. She goes to pick up a little snake and gets involved in a murder mystery somehow. So I sat down to write it. And when you write a screenplay, the first thing you write is your location, so your interior or your exterior, so INT or ENT, and then where it is, so like interior, INT, living room, and then day, night or day. So I wrote whatever the setting was, and then for the intro paragraph, you just basic, exterior, night, exterior, village, night, houses dot a rocky landscape along a shore, houses dot a landscape along a rocky shore. Okay, so then that gives you a visual of what the scene's going to look like. So I started writing this little paragraph, and it turned into 3 chapters of a book. I was more surprised than anybody that I'd written 3 chapters when I meant to write 1 paragraph of description. I'm like, that's interesting.
How did June Nash get to be a single girl?
So I got June Nash. So June became me dealing with my husband, which is how I dealt with that year, and that was very healing, I guess, writing that and letting her. June is very sarcastic, very angry, very selfish. I hate to say she's like me, but she's kind of like me. I'd like to think I'm not as selfish as she is. I'd really like to think I'm not, though she does come through. There are times when people need her, and she does. She comes through and helps. But her main thing is for her brother. So when I wrote the first version of, actually, I wrote it as a NaNoWriMo. I forgot about that. I did write it as a NaNoWriMo, and it was called The Aha Moment. And June was walking through. I had worked in North Dakota. I had a bunch of different jobs. I worked for Kelly Temporary Service just because something to do. And one of the jobs I did was on a survey crew in the middle of winter. You hold that pole and they have that thing, and I don't know how it works. You just hold that pole, and the other guy with the little camera thing goes a distance and then does something, and then you move on. So I had where she's, in the first version, she is in a field doing that, and he walks through looking for snakes, and she follows them out of the field, and they're together. Well, as I was writing it, I thought, if I did more than 1 book, it might be fun to have her involved with people. And if she's married, it's just not all that interesting. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, I'll make him her brother. And it's even more interesting as I started writing it. I'll make him her twin brother. And she's 90 seconds older. So her mother always tells her, you're taking care of your baby brother. You're the older one. She's like, by 90 seconds. Oh, and a day. So they have birthdays on different days, I think. I have to go back and look. So it's like by midnight, and the stroke of midnight and 90 seconds or 60 seconds or something, she's older by 1 day. So that's where she came about. And that's the changes were so that I could have her involved with people and off doing adventures without having to check in with her husband or have him with her. Because Dewey's kind of like a MacGuffin, or he's that MacGuffin, or is something that doesn't have anything to do with the story, but it moves the story along, like the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. We never know what's in the briefcase, but the briefcase keeps going, through, and different people are after it, and it helps to move the story forward, but we don't know what it is. So Dewey's kind of like that. So she's always worrying about her brother and making sure that he's okay and getting rid of the doozers, his crazy fans and all that. But I don't have to worry about him really being in there. He is occasionally, and he's in the short story. There's a prequel, and he's in the short story, the whole thing, sort of. So anyway, so yes.
Well, to me, he's sort of selfish, but I don't see June as being that selfish. I see her as being impulsive, not thinking things through. I mean, you gotta love her. She's such a fun character. And I think that she just moves that, story. She's always just on the move, and not thinking about, if I do this could happen. Or although sometimes she does, and she goes, I'm going to do it this way. She always picks, the wrong alternative there, but.
Yeah, she does. I mean, don't we always, we overthink things sometimes as humans, and sometimes there are disastrous consequences, always for June. um, yeah, yeah, you're right. Dewey is very selfish, and and had a 6-year snake when he finally makes an appearance. You see him in the beginning, and then you don't see him for all the middle, and then he finally makes an appearance again, and he's got a camera crew with him, and he's posing for the camera, and being dramatic, and they go off to save the day, and they leave June Word all alone. He's like, "You want to come with us?" She's like, "No, not really." She'd had enough of all that. But yeah, thinking about it, I guess he is more selfish. He's the one with the career, and so
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
his assistant. She's his personal assistant. So
and she takes all the anger from the fans. If
yeah,
she protects him, but it's like she's the meanie, and yeah,
yeah,
I don't think she's selfish at all. But you're right. He carries the story forward. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, let me ask you some questions. I know that you had sent out a survey, I think, one time about similarities between you, possibly, and June, and you asked which happened first, who did what, um, and you just went over a few of those, but I think you started out with. Let me get my paper here. Um, you said June slips into a pool of human blood. Who did it first, you or June?
And I was very disappointed that how many people who replied to that survey said it was me. Like, come on. How many pools of blood do you think I have? I've never stepped in a pool of blood, thankfully, except for dog blood. I've cut the dog nails, and where you get blood all over the whole kitchen because you cut the nail too short.
Uh-huh,
And I
uh-huh.
thank God, if somebody did one of those light things, they'd be like, "Oh my God, it's a bloodbath. They dismembered somebody in this kitchen." But no, it was definitely her. Hopefully, it's never me. Hopefully.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Um, okay, I think in How to Sex Your Snake, you also I know this happened. Something. I'm just going to read it like you said. After June was stuck in the neon orange outfit, which tells us a little bit about something, she steals Morgan's pants, deciding to keep them because of the pockets. Who did it first, June or you?
Me, no neon clothes. I mean, I wasn't at a crime scene. She's at a crime scene, and they take her clothes because it's evidence. But no, women's clothes don't have pockets, which, I mean, we do have pockets occasionally, but they're like an inch long. You can't do anything with women's pockets. So, my youngest, I was doing laundry, and I grabbed the pair of jeans and threw them on and didn't realize they were his. And I'm wearing them going, God, these are just so comfortable. And there's pockets. I don't remember buying these pants. And I wore them all day. And then finally my kid said, "Are you going to give me my pants back?" I'm like, "They're yours?" I've been wearing, oh my God, I've been wearing a guy's pants all day long. And they fit much better than I would have liked to have thought that run around in a guy's pants all day. But I brought in, I can speak, the idea of pockets for that one for the June. I can't remember if she stole the pants. She wanted to. He might have stolen the bag from her. I can't remember now.
Yeah, yeah. Which we should talk about sometime, the differences between men and women's clothes and how practical and more comfortable men's are.
Oh
We could
yeah.
really go off on that.
Oh God, yeah, yeah, yeah. If I buy sweatpants, or if you buy sweatpants or sweatshirts, always buy men's because they're always cheaper.
Yeah,
They always
yeah,
charge more money for the
and
women's
it's there
version. It's
too.
the same thing, just smaller, less material, and it costs more.
They don't wear those high heels that are so uncomfortable and.
No, no, yuck.
Okay. The next question I think you had here was after June discovers Morgan at the Strand, which Strand are you talking about? England?
Oh no, no, it's there's a hotel at in just outside of my pretend city that they live in, Horseshoe Bend, which is a little village actually, it's probably around the area where Douglas, Arizona is. I think that's about the area, near Highway 19 going down toward Nogales. So
Okay.
about not too far
Yeah,
from the
I
Mexican
couldn't figure
border.
that out because I thought I would have known that if it was, and I thought it's been a while since I read the first book, and okay. So anyway, the two end up, Morgan and June, end up stuffed in the trunk of a car. Who did this first?
And once
Very
again,
cute.
these people seem to think that I lead a really crazy life. Never been stuffed in the trunk of a car. I have stuffed people in the trunk of my car, though. In college, we used to go to the drive-in and they charged per person, not per car. People would go in my trunk and I'd take them out when we got inside so they didn't have to pay.
Well, drive-ins are making a comeback now. Wonder if we could do something like
I
the
think they
old
charge by
times.
car
Like
now.
we would wind up in the orange outfits,
I know, really.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. Before June and Morgan end up in that car trunk, June has a gun waved in her face. Who did that happen
Oh,
to?
that was me. That was me. When I was a kid, we lived in the middle of nowhere, and one night, and there weren't a lot of houses around us. My dad had bought the property on both sides, so we had about 7 acres. So there wasn't a lot. Our closest neighbor was pretty far away, and so one night there's somebody at the front door knocking on the door and let me in, so and so. I'm like, I was like 14 or 15. So I called the neighbor who came over with his gun and was waving his gun around and scaring the crap out of me, pointing it at me, not, just kind of waving it around as he's talking. And I'm thinking, you were going to accidentally shoot me. I can't remember if his finger was on the trigger or not, but he was just kind of waving that gun around like he shouldn't have been. But he scared the crap out of me. So that was me first. It's a long time ago, but I still remember how terrified I was.
Yeah, yeah, you can
Yeah.
remember those things. Always the storyteller say you remember these things and you put them in there. Um, a little bit out of context here, but tell me about Cyrano. I know that the dog is modeled after
Yeah, she's
a
modeled
real dog, right?
after my sweetie Roxanne. So when we moved to Tucson in 2004, we used to go to the pet store. We had two dogs, Maddie, who was a Labrador, and Stitch, who was a terrier. And we just lost Stitch about a month ago, and she was 19 when she died. And we had those two dogs, but we would go to the pet store and the Greyhound people. There's a racetrack in Tucson, and I can't remember if it's still operational. So there are two Greyhound groups in town, and they would bring the Greyhounds to PetSmart like third Saturday of the month or something. So for 6 months, I would look at these Greyhounds and say to my husband, I really want a Greyhound. They're so sweet. They're so wonderful. And for about 6 months, we looked at them. And then one day we were in, and there was just the sweetest dog, and she was sniffing and leaning on all the children, and she was chasing and just playing and loving all the little dogs. And Greyhounds, you have to be careful because sometimes they don't like cats. They can be kind of violent to cats and to small dogs
Trained to
because
chase. So
because they chase the rabbit
yeah.
on the track. And greyhounds can be really vicious, and you laugh about that, but when they're in like a pack, they all wear muzzles because their skin is very thin and it can tear really easy. But if one of them, and I remember a couple times this happened when there'd be like 40 greyhounds all together playing, and one would get like hurt and would cry, and they would just all converge like they were going to attack and kill it and act very viciously. So they can be, and they used to use them for hunting. It was the fawn colored ones were for royalty, and then they bred the brindle ones so that the common people, if I'm saying this right, I think this is correct, the common people could have then the brindle ones, and then you couldn't see them because they blended in. I
Mm.
guess I hope that it's not folklore, but I think that's true. Because my daughter did a report, and I'm trying to remember. I think that's what it was. So anyway, so after 6 months, we found this one dog, and we said she was so sweet. And her name was Lady or something like that. And they had, I've got a piece of hair that's doing weird things. They had her racing history with her. I think she'd won once and she'd come in second 12 times. And what she liked to do was she was in the lead always when she started. But then she would drop back so she could be with the pack and give somebody else a turn. She was just really social. So she's lucky she wasn't shipped off to Mexico because she was very fast. She was very fast and small. It took us 4 years to house train her. 4 years. She lived to be 12. And when she died, our terrier was heartbroken. I'm going to cry thinking about it, but she was she was my sweetie. I just loved that dog. But she was the sweetest dog, but she was the dumbest dog ever created. She was just so dumb. We had her on a walk one day and she came across this stick. So it comes out of the ground and then it forms a V, and her nose came into the V and she stopped and she didn't know how to get out of the V, and she's looking up at Mark and fussing. She didn't know what to do. She was stuck. And so we had to reach down and move the V out of the way. And then she continued on. She was a great dog. And the way I describe her getting into a car in the book is exactly how you had to lift up her front paws and you put them on the car seat. Then you went around to the back and she would look at you and wait and watch. You'd pick up her back feet and then walk them forward and hoping that she would move forward with her front feet. And then you get, so there was like a ball of greyhound and she'd just stand there waiting. And she'd look back at you and you'd kind of give her a little shove and then she'd hop into the car. And I would be leaving the Greyhound group meetings and I'd be putting her in the car and everybody would be laughing at her. But you have to laugh because it was hysterical to watch.
Yeah.
So, and food, food was, if it was on the ground, it was hers. And that's the same thing within the book. And so that saves June a couple times is the dog. But yeah, she was just.
Bruno is really her, right? That you're talking about.
Yeah, so she was. I mean, that's it. But she's more of a tan with just very light brindling in the book. I mean, I don't really describe it too much. I kind of let the cover artist do what he wanted, and then I don't think I really described her that much. But she was just, she was a real dog, and she was. I mean, that Cyrano in the book is the Cyrano that you see. That was her in real life, but she was Roxanne.
Well, I know you try to be, authentic in a lot of your parts of the book. And in the second book, How to Square Your Grouper, is that the title? That takes place in Key West, and you've already mentioned that a little bit. But I wanted to ask you, Key West is just one of those places where anything goes, right?
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
It's just so cool. And like I said, the chickens stopping traffic and everything. So I think you had mentioned one time, and I have to ask you about your hair color. Was that the first time you actually colored your hair?
In Key West, yeah.
I thought so.
I went into the Bobby shop it's across from the Green Parrot. If you're looking at the Green Parrot, if you're looking at the Green Parrot, it's like across the street and down, there's like a convenience store, and then there's the Bobby shop. And there, if you're in Key West and you did your haircut, go to the Bobby shop. They're fantastic. It's BOBBY.
I hope it's still there
B-O-B-B.
after that.
Yes, the guy who owns it is Bobby.
Okay.
So the girl that did my hair, I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name. She was fantastic. And we were joking around one day, and she might have done somebody else's hair, and I saw it, but we talked a couple times, and I said, it'd be fun to put pink in my hair. And I had my hair, I would always get it lightened because my hair is really dark. If you're watching on thing, you can see that I've got really dark roots. And it's just really dark, and it's just depressing to have dark hair. So I would always get it lightened. They do like a medium blonde with some medium blonde, medium brown, warm brown. We do warm brown with a little bit of auburn, a little bit of blonde. And that's what I would get done in my hair. And I said to her, it might be fun to get like a little bit of pink in there. And so she said, okay, let's do that. So she did like a pink stripe the first time. And then every time I went in, there was more and more pink, and then it became all pink. Sometimes I do blue and green. I've done green and yellow. I did some yellow, but I didn't quite like the yellow. but that's fun. I've been doing that. So I've been doing my hair. I've got a piece of hair that's tickling my face. I can't find it. If you're watching on video, I'm having a heck of a time. So I've been doing my hair since 2000, dyeing it some form of something since 2012, and I don't know if I'll ever go back to it. It's brown. It's boring.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I want to do a little pink on, uh,
Yes, you
yeah,
should.
but I don't have that thick hair that you have, so I would have to, maybe just do a little bit.
Yeah, you could do a couple of small stripes. Yeah, I wish I was closer. I am close. It's just we can't do anything because of COVID.
I know, I
I know,
know.
but I can walk you through what to do though. And I'll tell you what to order from Ulta, ULTA.com. You order
Okay.
these little jars of color, and I have to look and see what it's called. I can't remember. But I get the turquoise and I get flamingo. I think that's flamingo. But I leave it on for like a long, long, long time. So it's a really dark, and then it just gets, it's like raspberry right now, but it gets lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter as it goes, and it lasts me several months.
Yeah, that was my question. How long does it last? It just sort of fades,
It
right? And
sort of
then,
fades, yeah. And if you don't, when you wash it, you put the suds in your hand, and then you pat your head, and you don't ever rub your hair. I will sometimes when I first wash it. I mean, when I first do it, it's usually too dark, and so I'll go in there with baby shampoo, and do like 5 times where I wash it really hard and get all the extra stuff out, and so it starts to get a little bit lighter. Um, but once I get to a color I like, then I just take the put the suds in and just very gently pad the suds all through the hair, and do it upside down, and then very gently rinse it in with cold water if I can stand it. But I usually don't, just because I do it dark enough that it lightens up slowly. And so yeah, and it depends on the hair too. I have really thick hair, so and really thick
yeah, no, I
hair.
hate you.
So it's and I get it thinned, and so I need to, and
Oh,
because I wear cochlear implants, so I have a undercut usually that's shaved, and it's all growing right now, so I need to reshave it again. My husband keeps saying, "You want me to shave your head?" Like, yeah, but don't do it yet. So we pull it all up, and then we just shave everything underneath, and then it makes it a lot cooler too. Um,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I bet it is hot.
Oh, it's so hot. Normally, this is like 3 inches longer than it normally is. But I can't go to the hair salon because I'm not
Yeah,
going out.
I
So
know.
not until COVID's taken care of. So
You see all these things that everybody is learning about you. I mean,
whether they want to or not.
yeah, yeah. Well, so what is going to be your next June Nash book?
The next
And
one, the next one is called How to Launch Your Lizard, and you're hearing the title first, maybe. I don't think I've told anybody yet. I don't think so. But if
where?
you've already heard it, then you probably were the first. So
Okay.
so yeah, that's I just got the cover back. It is gorgeous. Our cover design artist is so good. So this is the 4th cover that he's done for me, and it's just gorgeous. And probably at the end of next month, anybody who's listening from the mailing list, you'll get I'll send the cover out to you guys at the end of the
Good,
month
good.
with the date of when. Right now, I'm a little over halfway done. So it was supposed to go to the editor on the 1st of August. And if you're on my mailing list, you know what stupid thing I did in the middle of the month. I have everybody, you got pills you got to take every day. So I have really bad arthritis, and I have since I've been in my mid-20s, really bad. So it's my middle finger and my thumb, and it's some days. I mean, I can't straighten my hand, and there's some days that I just have like a claw. So I'm on a daily baby aspirin, and then I have a couple other things that I take: my thyroid and vitamin D, because I like my bones are like in need desperately of calcium. So I know, and I drink a lot of milk and eat cheese and all that. So anyway, normally I have like one of those pill containers that that old people use, and you
Yeah.
have the days of the week, and you have all your pills in there. And I was supposed to refill it, and I was really lazy, and I'm like, oh, I'll just take it out of the bottles because I have no problem, taking my pills. I only take 3. Well, when I had gone to the doctor about my arthritis, that it finally got, to where it was really bothering me, and she prescribed the baby aspirin, she also gave me some muscle relaxants. And they're in the bottle that looks exactly like the aspirin. So for 9 days, I was drugging myself. Instead of baby aspirin, I was taking a muscle relaxant first thing in the morning. And I kept saying to my husband, are you tired? I don't know why I'm so tired. It's only 10 milligrams. You're supposed to take it 3 times a day, but it would knock me out till about 5. And I have a really hard time waking up in the morning. Waking up, or if I have surgery and coming out of anesthesia, takes me forever. Every time I went in for my implants, for my cochlear implants, you go in with a group, and everybody gets knocked out at the same time, and then they get sent off to their doctors for whatever, and everybody comes back, and you're all recovering at the same time. And I would be like the last one. Everybody's long gone. The nurse wants to go home. They'd be like, wake up. Maybe Mark would be in there. Can you wake up? Just sit up and you'll feel better. I'm like, I'd be so groggy. I couldn't even sit up. I couldn't even think of sitting up. So, just even a little bit and I always warn the anesthesiologist too, a little bit goes a long way with me. So don't kill me, So that 10 milligrams was enough to just completely destroy me. And so for 9 days, and I thought, I almost went and got a carbon monoxide detector, but nobody else in the family, there's 4 of us living in this house, and nobody else was having issues. Everybody else was fine. I'm like, what is wrong with me? I don't know why I'm so tired. What's wrong with me? So I got no writing done for 9 days. And I was on great track. I'd written like 20,000 words. I mean, I was hitting it. I was going to be done, no problem. August 1st, I was going to have the book off to the editor. And then she takes like a week, and then the book would be out like August 20th. That was the day that we were originally looking at. And so then one day I'm about to take my pills, and I'm like, for some reason, in my foggy brain, I'm like, didn't I get some muscle relaxants? Could it be? I got the bottle out, and I'm reading it, and I thought, I better look up what this long word means. Like, oops. So I took a pencil and wrote muscle relaxant and put it in a shelf in the closet. And so it's way out of the way. And if I need them, if my hand gets really bad, I can take one. But so then that day, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so good. I'm so awake. But it still took me a few days to get back into the swing of things, because for the last 9 days, I'd sat on the couch sleeping all day long. It was just absolutely crazy. So then it took me another 5-6 days or so. And then after that, I was like, oh, I don't want to sit and write. Then I had trouble sitting at the computer. So I work every day from 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock Eastern time. That's my writing time. And in the morning at 10 o'clock till noon, I do all my marketing and any of the technical stuff that I got to work on. That's when I do that stuff. And I had no patience for anything. It was really hard. And I finally got back into it. This week I wrote, I don't know, 4,000 words, something like that this week. So tomorrow is an all-day writing day, trying to catch up.
Speaking of readers, I know the question that a lot of them are asking.
Yeah, I get it all the time. Yep.
Soon, going to get back together.
June and Morgan. June and Morgan were childhood friends. They met when they were 5. When Dewey and June, their mother, moved to Horseshoe Bend from someplace. And I never talk about their dad. He's, I think, twice, some form of, he was misplaced by their mother. I think that's what I wrote. And I wrote something along the lines for the next time he was mentioned, because he grafted Greek onto the family tree because he was Greek. So they met Morgan when they were 5. Then in high school, he did something that made him her arch nemesis. And she didn't talk to the week they graduated. So she didn't talk to him for 10 years. So in the first book, he's not in the prequel. And then in the first book, How to Sex Your Snake, she gets back he's involved, and she has to talk to him again after, 10 years. And it's funny that I had a reader who left a review, it's out there, that she thought it was when she read why June was mad at Morgan, she called it lame. And I just laughed because I said, that is so fantastic. I love that. So in How to Score Your Grouper, June explains to someone why Morgan is her arch nemesis, and he tells her it's really lame. So thank you, reader, who called that lame, because it gave me a nice little point in the next book. So will they get together? I don't know. They have a great relationship. They are best friends without them wanting to really call each other best friends.
I'm really concerned about crotch pants. And
Crotch guy?
it's crotch guy.
Yeah.
Yes, I even I have to tell now the people listening, maybe who haven't read the book, that you have a lot of characters in your books, and most of them have nicknames. I mean, not crotch pants, crotch guy.
Crotch guy, yeah.
He's sort of coming
I like
in
crotch
and out,
pants, though.
and so why? I think why the first date I ever had in high school, I had a double date, of course, and I think I was a junior, I don't know. And, the guys picked us up in the car and everything. And this guy, he had yellow pants. We met him at a drive-in, and you don't really see somebody too well at the drive-in.
Yeah.
So they asked us out. And so he had yellow baggy pants. So he was always, when people say, who did you have your first date with? Baggy pants. Baggy pants.
That's great.
But anyway, so I think that's where the pants came from. But so anyway, this crotch guy keeps coming back in and out too.
He's been a couple times. Yeah. For June has a hard time. June, she knows the names of people that are important to her, but if they're not important to her, she doesn't really take the time to she kind of gives them a nickname.
Well, we have discovered so much about you.
Too much,
she
probably.
Drugged herself. She can't remember names. Neither can I. We learned about your beloved dog, so we know Cyrano was really.
Yeah.
He's still living. Living.
Roxanne will live on forever through the books, and yeah. So she'll always be around, which is nice and nice to think. Yeah. This has really been fun for me. Have you been tortured too much? No. I'm one of those people that, I talked about myself. I can talk about myself all day long. So everybody, if anybody's still listening, thank you. That was fun. I'm one of those people. Sure, I'll talk about myself all day long. Oh dear. I did edit a lot of it out because more than once I said, what was the question again? After I had wandered around the universe answering it. I don't know. Anyway, so it was fun to do though. And like I said, a lot of those were questions I get asked all the time by readers. So let's see. If you have any comments, you can go down to the show notes and click on that link and you can leave a comment. You can recommend a book if there is something that I need to desperately read or something you've written that I desperately need to read. Let me know. And that's it for now. I will see you next time. Go read a good book.